S.K.A.T E was sold to us as a comeback built on trust, community, and a free-to-play open world that would be ever evolving and changing with community feedback in mind. Full Circle and EA have gone full circle and have broken those promises, gone against what they've said in the past, and are actively doing everything in their power to destroy the S.K.A.T franchise and the S.K.A.T brand.
We made some hard ground rules to follow. The first one is that S.K.A.T is not pay to win. There are no areas of gameplay or the map that you have to pay to unlock.
They have prioritized cosmetics over gameplay. They also just dropped a new roadmap today that reads more like damage control for their disastrous announcement that they made yesterday. So let's go over the full timeline of events, where the records show they lied. No fluff, no spin, just the facts. When S.K.A.T was announced, the message was clear and simple. This would be a living, evolving world shaped by players. The studio framed early access as a partnership, a long road where community feedback would steer priorities. They promised transparency, they promised the roadmap would reflect the players' priorities, and they promised map areas would not be paywalled. Those promises mattered, because map access and classic modes are the soul of the franchise. Fans didn't want a cosmetic shop with a skate park backdrop. They wanted S.K.A.T. Before launch, the devs repeated those lines in interviews and updates. They emphasized community input. They talked about listening. They framed the game as an open world that would grow for everyone. Those weren't throwaway marketing phrases. They were expectations set in public. Players heard them, reporters quoted them, and the community built trust around them. That trust is a baseline we judge everything that followed against them. S.K.A.T launched with a pretty well-polished foundation that laid the groundwork for S.K.A.T. The Flick-It system was responsive and a major upgrade over S.K.A.T 3. The map, however, was small and lacking. It also lacked things that made S.K.A.T unique, such as classic modes in S.K.A.T, the game mode, S.K.A.T, spot battles, and many legacy competitive modes and systems were absent. Legacy spots and deeper multiplayer modes, they're missing. The game felt like a sandbox with a lot of potential, but without the core competitive and social features that define the series. Fans are patient at first. Early access was supposed to be the process, but the gap between what was promised and what shipped was already visible. Seasons began and pattern emerged. Season 1 brought cosmetics, small quality of life changes, and a few tweaks here and there. Season 2 added more cosmetics, a few mechanical adjustments, and a new replay editor. They also brought one new game mode, which is just a spin on previously existing game modes that required co-op to be achievable. Meanwhile, the big asks that the community wanted, S.K.A.T, spot battle, private servers, legacy modes, they stayed on the roadmap and off and out of the updates. Full Circle and EA have continuously said they are listening to player feedback, but the delivery prioritized monetized content and surface features over gameplay systems and players repeatedly requested. And yesterday they made the absolute terrible decision to announce the Isle of Grom that will be behind a paid wall access. And they followed up by today announcing Season 3. On paper, the Isle of Grom is just the tutorial island brought back with a few little updates and additions to the island, which sounds great, but in practice, access to that island is tied to a premium access or required a heavy grind of in-game currency in order to access. That is a paywall in every meaningful sense. When you bring up the earlier promise, map expansions will not be put behind a paywall, and then you put that in with yesterday's and today's announcement for Season 3, that the Isle of Grom will in fact be put behind a paywall. This is not a minor miscommunication. This is a direct reversal of a public promise, where the records show a promise and a later action that breaks it. They lied. EA's latest roadmap update does two things at once. It reframes how the studio communicates the roadmap, and it quietly removes and reprioritizes certain features. The update explicitly says features shift, get delayed, or get cut, and removes things like open world collection to focus on social features. That language is classic damage control. It normalizes cuts and delays before players can really react, and it's to soften the blow of previous promises that have been broken by making the change sound inevitable. Full Circle's latest update reads as full pure PR, even probably written by AI. This is a PR move designed to lower expectations retroactively. Let's be clear on what Season 3 is going to deliver though. They're going to be adding dark slides, which is literally just another S.K.A.T.E move. I don't know why it's taken this long for them to get this in. They're going to be updating the boneless, which is just an update to an animation that's already existing. They're going to be adding tattoos, which is just cosmetic. And we don't know how many are going to be actually available or in the shop. They're going to be adding new replay editor effects, which you could probably go on Instagram and get any filter you want and finally put it in the editor. They're going to be adding one new game mode called Speed Lines, which is the already existing Lines game mode with a timer. That's all they're adding to it. Chapter 3 is mostly cosmetics, editor polish. Oh, and they're going to be adding store improvements because of course they're going to be focusing on the store and not the game of S.K.A.T.E. And that's Chapter 3. Mostly cosmetics, editor polish, and one new game mode. It's not a substantial expansion on any gameplay. It's not a return of S.K.A.T.E, it's not a return of any gameplay modes that actually make it any competitive. It's not a return of any competitions. It's content drop heavy on monetization and light on things that make S.K.A.T feel like S.K.A.T. The update lists the game mode S.K.A.T Spot Battles as in development and puts private servers and player created parks, leaderboards, and legacy spots as on the radar. That's the language of indefinite promises. We see it, we want it, maybe someday. No timelines, no milestones, no accountability. After months of early access, players' feedback and players' asks remain undated and unguaranteed. Saying you're working on it without a timeline is not listening. The reaction has been immediate and predictable. Frustration, anger, and a sense of betrayal. Creators and players are calling on Full Circle and EA to do the right thing and to walk back the decision to put the Isle of Grom behind a paywall. They want clarity and real accountability. This isn't just noise that developers can ignore. It's a rational response to promises being made and promises being broken. And now a roadmap update to reframe what the developers aim to deliver. Live service games live and die by trust. When the trust is spent on cosmetics and PR, the longevity of that live service suffers. Companies can change plans. That's normal. When you make a clear and public promise and then implement changes that contradict those words without prominent disclosure or a defensible reason, that's deception. When the record shows you made a promise and did a later action that breaks it, that's just a lie. If Full Circle and EA want to repair this, here's what they need to do. First, they need to publicly acknowledge this contradiction and explain why these changes have happened with very specific reasons. And second, provide concrete timelines and milestones for the top community requests, such as S.K.A.T, spot battles, private servers, legacy spots, and commit to a measurable delivery window, transparency, timelines, intangible fixes. That's how you rebuild trust. S.K.A.T E is a franchise with history and heart. The community gave Full Circle and EA the benefit of the doubt. That trust was earned over decades and can be lost in months. Right now, EA and Full Circle are showing a pattern of promises and contradictions, as well as PR reframing. S.K.A.T E deserves better developers. The community deserves the truth, and if you want change, demand clarity. Ask for timelines. Ask the studios to stop hiding behind vague roadmaps. I may have stopped playing S.K.A.T E, but I'm still following the development of S.K.A.T E. I have also switched to Linux, and that is making it very difficult to play S.K.A.T E when EA's anti-cheat doesn't allow me to play S.K.A.T E on Linux. Anyways, I'll keep an eye on things, see what Full Circle and EA continue to do to the S.K.A.T E franchise. Until the next one, hold developers to their words, and let's keep games honest. I'm watching you, EA. You have no power here, EA.